We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Hidden Currents. Warren Blackwood stared at the neurologist's business card in his hand, tracing his thumb over the embossed lettering. Another dead end. 4 specialists in 3 months, and still no answers. The tremor in his right hand returned, subtle but unmistakable. The tests are inconclusive, Mr. Blackwood, the doctor had said. There's nothing physiologically wrong that we can detect. Warren pocketed the card and stepped out of the medical building into the Seattle drizzle. The raindrops on his face helped mask the frustration. At 48, he wasn't ready for his body to betray him. 20 years heading corporate security for Nexus Global had taught him to trust his instincts. And his instincts told him something was deeply wrong. His phone buzzed with a text from Joe. How did it go? He typed back, same as before. Nothing conclusive. 3 dots appeared immediately. I've made dinner reservations. We'll discuss that trial at Helios I mentioned. Warren sighed. His wife had been pushing the experimental treatment for weeks now. Josephine Blackwood was nothing if not persistent. It was one of the qualities that had drawn him to her 12 years ago. Her drive, her determination, her ability to access any social circle with effortless charm. At home, their modern glass and steel house overlooked Puget Sound. Joe was applying lipstick in the entryway mirror when he arrived, her gallery owner precision evident in every movement. You're late, she said, not unkindly. The reservation's at 7. Sorry. Traffic from downtown was brutal. Warren loosened his tie. I just need 5 minutes to change. Joe turned to face him, her eyes assessing. You look pale. Are the headaches back? Just tired. The Helios trial could help with that. Your father thinks. Of course he does. Warren couldn't keep the edge from his voice. I'm surprised you two haven't already signed me up. Joe crossed the space between them, placing her hands on his chest. We're worried about you. Is that so terrible? Her perfume, something expensive and subtle, filled his senses. Warren felt a stab of guilt for his suspicion. Whatever their differences, Joe had been steadfast through his mystery illness. I'll think about it, he conceded. Dinner was at Camless, overlooking Lake Union. Their usual table, the one where they could speak without being overheard. Warren watched Joe order wine with practiced ease, charming the sommelier with questions about the vineyard. Your father called again today, Joe said when they were alone. He's pulled some strings to get you into the Helios trial. Top of the list. Warren took a long sip of water. Desmond always didn't know how to cut in line. He's trying to help. No, he's trying to control. There's a difference. Joe's expression softened. Not everything is a power play, Warren. With Desmond, it always is. Warren thought back to their last family dinner. Desmond dominating the conversation, dismissing Warren's career achievements with backhanded compliments. Security work is valuable, I suppose. Though I always hoped you'd aim higher. He sits on their ethics board, Joe continued. He values their research. Warren's security training kicked in, noting the subtle tells in Joe's expression, the slight aversion of her eyes, the minimal tightening around her mouth. She was holding something back. How often do you speak with him? Warren asked casually. Joe focused on cutting her steak. The usual. Holidays, occasional dinners. Warren remembered his last conversation with Spencer Cole. Saw your wife having lunch with your father again downtown. 3rd time this month. You never mentioned you were seeing him regularly. Joe's knife paused. I wouldn't call it regularly. We've had lunch a few times, discussed some estate planning matters he wanted to help with. Estate planning, Warren repeated. For whom? For us, of course. Your symptoms have him concerned. Joe reached across the table, squeezing his hand. He may be difficult, but he cares in his way. Warren felt the room tilt momentarily, another wave of dizziness washing over him. He gripped the table edge. Warren? Joe's voice seemed to come from far away. I'm fine, he managed. Just need some air. Back home. Warren begged off with exhaustion while Joe took a call in her study. He stood under the shower, hot water pounding his shoulders, trying to make sense of the fragments that wouldn't fit together. The mysterious illness. Joe's lunches with Desmond. The experimental trial, they both seemed determined he'd join. After drying off, he opened his laptop to check their joint accounts. Another anomaly, $50,000 transferred last week to an investment portfolio he didn't recognize. Following his well-honed security protocols, Warren searched through his office for the financial documents Joe had organized last month. Behind his desk, his hand brushed something unfamiliar. Warren froze, fingers tracing the small bump hidden beneath the wooden chair rail. Years of security work made recognition instantaneous, a listening device professionally installed. In their bedroom, in their home, Warren left it untouched, mind racing. He moved through the house with new awareness, checking locations only someone with training would consider. The bookshelf in the living room, the kitchen vent hood, the decorative sconce in the guest bathroom. By midnight, he'd found 6 devices in total. Military-grade surveillance equipment he recognized from his days at Nexus. Not the kind available to jealous spouses or private investigators. The kind used by intelligence agencies and elite corporate security teams. Warren sat in the darkness of his kitchen, listening to the quiet breathing of his house. The person he trusted most in the world was sleeping upstairs, in a bedroom wired to record their most intimate conversations. His phone lit up with a text from Spencer. Need to talk. Security matter. Tomorrow? Warren typed back. Yes. Not my house. The usual spot. Noon. His hands weren't shaking anymore. Uncertainty had been replaced by something familiar. The cold, clear focus of an investigation. Someone had declared war on his life, and Warren Blackwood had never lost a security battle yet. But first, he needed to understand the enemy, even if that enemy shared his bed. Chapter 2. Fracturing Reality. The small cabin on Whidbey Island smelled of cedar and salt. Warren had purchased it before meeting Joe, one of those impulse buys during a rare, peaceful weekend away from Nexus. He'd never mentioned it to her, an omission that now felt like foresight rather than oversight. Warren powered up the secure laptop he'd brought, establishing the connection to the camera Spencer had helped him install yesterday. The feed from his Seattle home loaded. Joe moving through the kitchen, preparing coffee, making a call on a phone Warren had never seen before. She didn't find the cameras, Spencer said, joining him at the table with 2 mugs of black coffee. At 36, Spencer Cole retained the military bearing from his years in Army intelligence before Warren recruited him to Nexus. No, but she's definitely looking for something. Warren pointed to the screen. See how she keeps checking the usual spots? Methodical sweep of potential surveillance points. Spencer frowned. Who the hell trained your wife in counter-surveillance? That's what I intend to find out. Warren pulled up another screen, this one showing his banking records. Look at this pattern. Small withdrawals at first, testing the waters. Then progressively larger amounts once there was no reaction. 2.3 million. Spencer whistled softly. And you didn't notice? I trusted Joe with the day-to-day finances years ago. Made sense. Her family has serious money. She has business experience running the gallery. Warren's jaw tightened. My mistake. What about these power of attorney documents Rita mentioned? The ones Joe used at the bank. Forgeries. Well-executed ones, but I never signed them. Warren rubbed his eyes. Spencer, I need you to tell me again about seeing Joe with my father. Spencer shifted uncomfortably. 3 times in the financial district. Always at that French place he likes. They seemed familiar. Define familiar. Like people who spend a lot of time together. Spencer hesitated. The last time, I was across the street. He kissed her goodbye. A familial kiss? Not exactly. Warren nodded once, absorbing this. Did you get those medical records I asked for? Spencer pulled a flash drive from his pocket. Your father's first wife, your mother. Death certificate says cardiac arrest, but the medical examiner noted unusual electrolyte imbalances. Report was amended later. Cause never investigated further. Warren inserted the drive. Did you find anything about Helios Biolabs? Privately held pharmaceutical research company, specialized in neurological treatments. Your father joined their ethics board 3 years ago after making a substantial investment. Spencer paused. Warren, what's happening to you? These symptoms. That's what Dr. Reeves is helping me figure out. Warren clicked open a file containing his latest lab results. She took me off the trial medication yesterday after a seizure. Promised to run an independent analysis. Spencer leaned forward. You think the trial drugs are causing your symptoms? I think my symptoms started before the trial, but something doesn't add up. Warren closed the laptop. I need you to keep monitoring Joe without raising suspicion. I'm going to visit my wife's gallery after hours tonight. Breaking and entering your own wife's business. That's a new definition of marital problems. Warren didn't smile. If I'm right, this goes far beyond marital problems. That night, the lock on Josephine's gallery yielded easily to Warren's expertise. Inside, the white walls displayed contemporary art pieces with price tags that would fund a small nation's economy for a month. Joe's office in the back was immaculate at first glance. Warren moved through her space like a ghost, photographing documents before returning them precisely to their original positions. The gallery's financial records told a story different from Joe's vibrant descriptions of success: mounting debt, suspicious transfers, inventory discrepancies. In a locked filing cabinet, Warren discovered documentation for pieces he recognized. Paintings Joe had sold months apart to different collectors, impossible unless one was a forgery. In another drawer, he found a manila folder labeled with his name. Inside, divorce papers, already bearing a signature that mimicked his own, dated 3 weeks in the future. In a margin, a handwritten note in Desmond's distinctive script. Don't worry, once the pharmaceutical trial accidentally give him a lethal dose, we'll have everything. Warren's phone vibrated. A text from Dr. Reeves. Need to speak urgently. Blood test shows something critical. Can you come to my office tomorrow? He responded, we'll be there at 9. In a hidden compartment of Joe's desk, Warren found photographs. Joe and Desmond together in Tokyo, Paris, Barcelona. Destinations she described as solo art-buying trips. The dates aligned perfectly with periods when his symptoms had worsened. The intimate nature of the photos left no doubt about their relationship. In one, dated just 6 months after Warren had introduced them, Desmond's hand possessively gripped Joe's waist in a way that made Warren's stomach turn. A noise at the front of the gallery sent Warren into instantaneous security mode. He replaced the documents, slipped out the back entrance, and disappeared into the Seattle night. By morning, Warren had assembled a mental catalog of evidence, but the picture it painted seemed too grotesque to be real. His wife and father were lovers, systematically stealing his money and slowly poisoning him toward a death that would appear medically explainable. At Dr. Reeves' office, his suspicions found scientific confirmation. Thallium, she said, sliding the lab report across her desk. Low-dose exposure over months. It's causing your neurological symptoms, the tremors, dizziness, memory issues. Warren examined the report. Not from the trial medication. No. Dr. Reeves' expression was grim. This is coming from an external source. Likely food or beverages you consume regularly. Can you prove this conclusively? Yes. We've preserved the blood samples. Each shows increasing levels that correlate with your symptom progression. She hesitated. Warren, this wasn't accidental. Someone has been poisoning you. Warren met her eyes. I know who and I know why. What I need now is irrefutable evidence. I've contacted someone who can help. Dr. Reeves handed him a business card. Agent Dale Torres, FBI. He specializes in medical crimes. Tell him not to move yet, Warren said. We need to catch everyone involved. That evening, Warren installed microphones and cameras in his kitchen, focusing on areas where Joe prepared his coffee, smoothies, and supplements. He didn't have to wait long. The following morning, the evidence appeared on his secure laptop. Joe carefully adding a powdered substance to his coffee grounds, stirring it thoroughly before brewing. Her phone call afterward was equally damning. He's still functioning too well, Joe said to someone Warren couldn't see. The doctor says his tests show unexpected resilience. A pause as she listened. I understand the timetable, but if I increase the dosage any more, it might be detected. Another pause. Yes, Desmond. I know what's at stake. Warren closed the laptop, a cold clarity filling him. His father had killed before. His mother's unexplained death now made terrible sense. And Joe, the woman he'd trusted completely, was the weapon aimed at his heart. That afternoon, he met Agent Torres in a park far from any surveillance. "You've built an impressive case," Torres said after reviewing Warren's evidence. "But we need more to ensure convictions, especially given your father's connections. What do you suggest?" "Continue gathering evidence. Document everything. We need to prove not just the poisoning, but the financial crimes and the connection to Nexus's classified information." Warren nodded. "They believe I'm declining. I'll use that perception against them." "It's dangerous," Torres warned. "They've already tried to kill you." "Yes," Warren agreed, his voice hardening. "And now I'm going to return the favor, legally, but completely. I spent 20 years protecting corporations from people like them. Now I'll use everything I know to make them suffer the consequences." As they parted, Warren felt no fear, only purpose. The people who had betrayed him had made a fatal miscalculation. They thought they were hunting prey, but they had merely awakened a predator. Chapter 3. The Glass Cracks. Warren eased himself into the plush leather chair in Spencer's office at Nexus Global, deliberately allowing his right hand to tremble visibly. The role of deteriorating victim required meticulous attention to detail. "You look terrible," Spencer said, closing the door. "That's the point." Warren glanced at the computer monitor displaying their surveillance feed. "Has Joe accessed my backup files yet?" 3 days ago. Took photos of everything in the hidden safe, including the false investment statements you planted." Warren nodded. "And Desmond?" "Called her 20 minutes later. They met at the Fairmont, argued about something. Our directional mic only caught fragments." Warren leaned forward. "Show me." Spencer pulled up the footage. On screen, Joe and Desmond sat in a corner booth, voices lowered but body language tense. Desmond's finger jabbed toward Joe repeatedly. Moving too slowly, Desmond's voice came through in pieces. "Competitors need the Nexus specifications now." Joe's response was clearer. "You promised me 30%, not 12. I'm the one taking all the risks." "You're getting greedy," Desmond replied, audible again. "Remember your position. I made you. I can unmake you." The camera caught Joe's expression, flash of fear quickly masked by practiced charm. "Don't threaten me, Desmond. I have insurance of my own." Warren paused the video. "She's planning a contingency. Smart move, considering your father's history. Have you identified her contact for the Nexus information?" Spencer handed him a folder. "Vincent Graves, art forger with connections to several international buyers. He's been laundering information through the art sales. The paintings contain embedded data when scanned with specialized equipment." "Clever," Warren admitted. Joe always did have an eye for innovative solutions. The phone on Spencer's desk rang. "It's for you," he said after answering. "Dr. Reeves." Warren took the receiver. "I'm here. They removed me from the trial yesterday," Liza Reeves said without preamble. "Replace me with Gregory Nash. Nash is connected to my father, former research partner. 3 prior collaborations, all with questionable ethics complaints that were mysteriously dropped." Warren processed this. "They're accelerating their timeline. Your blood tests from yesterday confirm it. Thallium levels increased by 18%. They're going to make their move soon. Then so will I." Warren hung up, turned to Spencer. "Time to implement the next phase. How's our forensic accountant doing?" "Ronnie's traced most of the money. Your funds were laundered through the gallery into offshore accounts connected to Desmond, then invested in a pharmaceutical startup competing directly with Nexus's newest security system. My wife and father are financing corporate espionage with my money to develop a competing product." Warren shook his head, poetic in its betrayal. Spencer hesitated. "There's something else. The offshore transfers. Some occurred while you were hospitalized last year for your appendectomy. When Joe had my medical power of attorney." "Yes, but the authentication codes used to access your accounts came from an IP address at a location where Joe wasn't present." Warren stilled. "Where?" "Your father's lake house. The transfers were made while Joe was verifiably at the hospital with you." The implications crystallized. They've been planning this for over a year. My mysterious illness was no accident. Warren's phone vibrated with a text from Agent Torres. Nash prescribed new trial medication. Chemical analysis shows 5x normal thallium concentration. Do not take it. Time to move. Spencer, contact Ronnie and Howard Kwan. We need all surveillance operational tonight. Warren stood, deliberately swaying, as if dizzy. And call that nurse, Beatrice Rodriguez. Tell her we need her expertise now. That evening, Warren returned home to find Joe in the kitchen preparing dinner, her movements graceful and precise. He watched from the doorway as she added a fine powder to his portion of the pasta sauce, stirring it thoroughly. Something smells wonderful, he said, making her start slightly. Warren, I didn't hear you come in. Joe quickly moved the saucepan away from the suspicious spice container. How was your appointment? Dr. Nash changed my medication. Says these new pills should help with the cognitive issues. Warren held up an amber prescription bottle. I took the first dose on the way home. Alarm flashed across Joe's face, quickly masked. Already? Shouldn't you have waited until I could monitor you? I was feeling particularly bad. Thought sooner was better. Warren moved unsteadily to the counter, bracing himself. Bit dizzy now, though. Joe hurried to his side, concern seemingly genuine. Let's get you to the sofa. I'll bring dinner there. As she guided him to the living room, Warren noticed her checking his pupils, his skin tone, clinical assessment disguised as affection. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Aren't you going to answer that? Warren asked mildly. It's nothing important. Joe settled them on the couch, fluffing pillows with practiced care. Could be the gallery. That big sale you mentioned. Joe hesitated, then checked her phone. The text preview was visible for just a moment. Did he take the new meds? Just a vendor confirmation, she said smoothly, slipping the phone away. Nothing urgent. Warren closed his eyes, feigning fatigue. I think I need a rest before eating. Of course. I'll keep your dinner warm. When Joe returned to the kitchen, Warren activated the recording app on his modified watch, capturing the sound of her urgent whispered call. He's taken the first dose already, she said. No, I don't know why Nash gave it to him directly. Yes, I'm watching for effects. A pause. How quickly should it work? Another pause. Jesus, Desmond. You promised this would look natural. Warren silenced the app as Joe returned with a glass of water and solicitous smile. Small sips, she instructed. You need to stay hydrated with the new medication. Warren obediently drank, knowing the activated charcoal capsules he'd taken earlier would bind any poison in the water. You take such good care of me. Always, Joe said, stroking his hair. Her touch, once comforting, now felt like the caress of a venomous snake. Later that night, Warren faked sleep while Joe made another call from their bathroom, voice low. He's disoriented, pulse is thready. No convulsions yet. She paused, listening. The documents are ready. I've practiced his signature enough times. The bank won't question it. Another pause. I understand. 24 hours max. Then we implement the transfer. Yes, I'll call you when it's done. When Joe finally slept, Warren slipped from the bed and retrieved his hidden phone, texting Agent Torres. They're making their move. Be ready. Torres's response came immediately. All assets in position. Evidence collection protocols initiated. Stay safe. In the darkness of his poisoned home, surrounded by the trappings of his fabricated life, Warren felt a strange sense of calm. The elaborate glass fortress of lies Joe and Desmond had constructed was developing fractures. Soon, he would shatter it completely. Warren returned to bed, lying beside the woman who planned to claim his life within 24 hours. He thought of his mother, another victim of Desmond's calculated cruelty. There would be justice for both of them soon. But first, he had to die, at least in the eyes of his would-be killers. Chapter 4. Counterattack. I need absolute discretion, Warren told Veronica Palmer across her obsessively organized desk. At 52, Ronnie exuded the quiet confidence of someone who had seen behind the financial curtains of the wealthy and powerful and found them wanting. You do realize I've maintained confidentiality for Saudi royalty and tech billionaires, she replied, examining the documents he'd provided. Your situation, while extraordinarily distressing on a personal level, isn't particularly complex from a forensic perspective. Warren allowed himself a small smile. Ronnie's bluntness had always been refreshing, even during their brief relationship years before Joe. Can you trace every dollar they've taken? Already have. She slid a tablet across to him. Your wife established a clever network of shell companies through her gallery. The primary funds went to offshore accounts in the Caymans, then were routed to this pharmaceutical startup. She tapped the screen. Helix Innovations. Registered 18 months ago, developing surveillance technology remarkably similar to Nexus's proprietary systems. My father's on their board? Not officially, but his trust owns 40% of their shares through 3 different holding companies. Ronnie raised an eyebrow. Amateur hour, really? I've seen 9-year-olds with lemonade stands create more sophisticated financial obfuscation. Warren studied the flow chart she'd created. What about the art forgery angle? Genuinely creative. Your wife has documented sales of original artworks to legitimate collectors, then sells duplicates to shell companies at inflated prices. The money laundering provides cover for the real product, embedded data in the forged paintings. Ronnie leaned forward. But here's where it gets interesting. Some transactions show Desmond double-crossing Joe. Ow! These transfers from the offshore accounts. Ronnie highlighted several transactions. They're structured to implicate Joe alone if anyone investigates. He's creating a perfect fall person. Warren felt a twist of bitter amusement. He's planning to betray her too. Men like your father view people as disposable assets. Ronnie's voice softened slightly. I'm sorry, Warren, about all of this. Don't be. Just help me finish what they started. Later that afternoon, Warren sat across from Marian Blackwood in her elegant Tudor home, watching emotions play across her still beautiful face as she examined the evidence against her ex-husband. I wish I could say I'm surprised, Marianne said finally, setting aside the folder. But Desmond was always calculating. Did you suspect anything during your marriage? About my mother's death. Marianne chose her words carefully. I never had proof. But when I threatened divorce after discovering his affair with his clerk, he told me, you should be careful about your health. First wives in my family don't tend to fare well. Warren's jaw tightened. Why didn't you ever say anything? To whom? Desmond controlled everything. The money, the social connections. Even the police chief was his golf partner. Marianne poured herself another finger of scotch. Besides, you were already grown, estranged from him. What would it have accomplished except to hurt you? It would have warned me not to trust him, not to introduce Joe to him. Marianne studied him. You truly had no idea about their relationship. None. Warren's admission felt raw. Security was my profession, and I missed the thread under my own roof. Desmond has a pattern with younger women. He doesn't love them. He collects them, uses them, discards them. Marianne sipped her scotch. Joe may think she's special, but she's just following the script he's written for dozens before her. She's still actively poisoning me. Yes, well, that does demonstrate a certain initiative the others lacked. Marianne set down her glass. What do you need from me? Access to any documentation from your divorce. Communications, financial records, anything that might establish pattern and intent. I kept everything. Marianne rose and walked to a wall safe concealed behind a mediocre landscape painting. Desmond always underestimated me. Thought I was just a trophy wife with no mind for details. She removed a thick folder. I made copies of every document, recorded conversations, tracked his movements for years. Insurance, I called it. Warren accepted the folder with newfound respect for his former stepmother. Why didn't you use this during the divorce? He threatened my sister's children. Marianne's expression hardened. But I've always kept it, waiting for the day it might be needed. I suppose that day has come. That evening, Warren met Howard Kwan in a nondescript server room in Bellevue, where the tech security expert had established their surveillance hub. Your wife uses top-tier encryption, Kwan remarked, fingers flying across multiple keyboards. Military-grade protocols. Not the kind of security your average art dealer would know. Joe has hidden talents, Warren said dryly. Apparently, but I've piggybacked on their own surveillance of your home to create a reverse feed. We can now see and hear everything they're saying about you, even when you're not there. Quan pulled up footage from earlier that day, Joe in their bedroom, speaking to Desmond on her secure phone. The new medication is working faster than expected, Joe was saying. His coordination is significantly impaired. Slurred speech, confusion. Dr. Nash says the next dose will likely trigger a major neurological event. Good. Desmond's voice sounded tinny through the speaker. The board meets next week to approve the Helix acquisition. Once that's complete, we move the final assets and tie off loose ends. What about the cryptocurrency he mentioned? Joe asked. His delirious ramblings about hidden accounts? Probably nonsense. But if it exists, we'll find it. Nash says in his condition, Warren can be made to reveal anything under the right chemical persuasion. Joe's voice lowered. And afterward, we proceed as discussed. Of course. Desmond's tone was smoothly reassuring. You've done excellent work, Josephine. Your future is secured. Quan stopped the playback. There's more from the lake house surveillance. Want to see it? Yes. New footage appeared. Desmond alone in his study, speaking with an unidentified man in a suit. Once she delivers the final Nexus specifications, we'll have everything we need, Desmond was saying. The woman has served her purpose. In the documentation placing all transactions in her name, the man asked. Complete. When the FBI inevitably investigates Warren's death and the missing funds, they'll find a greedy wife who poisoned her husband and stole his fortune. Desmond smiled thinly. So tragic. What about her insurance? She mentioned having protection. An empty threat. I've been one step ahead of Josephine since the day we met. She's smart, but ultimately predictable. Warren turned to Quan. Make sure Agent Torres gets copy of all this footage. Already done. We've established an encrypted live feed to their evidence servers. Before leaving, Warren checked one last feed, his home kitchen, where Joe was carefully measuring powder into his evening tea, her face a mask of determined concentration. Two could play at being predictable, Warren thought, and his opponents had no idea their game was already lost. Chapter 5. Escalation. The hospital room's fluorescent lighting cast sickly shadows across Warren's face as he lay in the bed, monitors beeping in steady rhythm. He'd calculated the risk carefully, just enough contaminated mouthwash to trigger symptoms requiring hospitalization, but not enough to cause permanent damage. The seizure had been genuine, though. 12 terrifying minutes of his body rebelling against the accumulated poison. But it had achieved exactly what he needed, documented medical evidence and a controlled environment to implement the next phase of his plan. Dr. Reeves entered, clipboard in hand, her professional demeanor giving nothing away to the cameras Warren knew Joe had bribed an orderly to install. Mr. Blackwood, your test results are concerning, she announced for the record. The neurological symptoms have progressed significantly. From her clipboard, she discreetly slid a note. Evidence secured. Torres has search warrant ready. Warren maintained his role as declining patient. Will I recover, doctor? We're doing everything possible, but I must be honest. The prognosis is uncertain. She checked his using the movement to murmur, Nash arrested this morning. Cooperating fully. Joe chose that moment to enter, carrying flowers and concern like perfectly selected accessories. How busy today, Mrs. Blackwood? Dr. Reeves' tone was coolly professional. Your husband experienced another seizure an hour ago. We've adjusted his medication, but he's showing signs of advanced neurological impairment. Joe's face displayed the appropriate distress as she took Warren's hand. Oh, darling, I can't bear seeing you like this. Warren slurred his speech slightly. Joe, need to tell you something important. Her attention sharpened, though she maintained her concerned expression. What is it, love? Bitcoin wallet. Warren made his breathing labored. Millions hidden. Password in my head. Joe's fingers tightened imperceptibly around his. Don't worry about money now. Just focus on getting better. Need to tell you. Insurance for us. Dr. Reeves interrupted. He needs rest, Mrs. Blackwood. Perhaps you could return during evening visiting hours? When they were alone, Dr. Reeves checked the room for surveillance before speaking. You're playing a dangerous game, Warren. It's working. She'll report the cryptocurrency information to Desmond immediately. And when they discover it's false, by then, they'll be too committed to their adjusted plan. Warren sat up, dropping the pretense of weakness. Have you found my replacement nurse? Beatrice Rodriguez starts tomorrow morning. Her brother was in one of your father's early pharmaceutical trials. Died under circumstances similar to what they're planning for you. Perfect. She understands what's at stake. Later that evening, Spencer visited, bringing a laptop disguised as personal items. Once Joe left for dinner, he set it up to monitor their surveillance network. Quan intercepted a call between Joe and Desmond 20 minutes ago, Spencer reported. The cryptocurrency bait worked. They're keeping you alive until they can extract the information. Warren nodded. And the files implicating Desmond that Ronnie prepared, placed exactly where you specified in the gallery safe. Joe's scheduled to check it tomorrow. The hospital room door opened, revealing Claudia West, the private nurse Joe had hired to assist with Warren's care. Warren immediately noted her military bearing poorly disguised beneath professional nursing attire. Evening check, she announced, moving to the monitors. When Spencer stepped out to take a call, she spoke in a different tone entirely. Mr. Blackwood, your wife has requested detailed reports on your coherence levels and speech patterns. Has she now? Warren maintained his invalid persona. And what? What will you tell her? That depends on our arrangement. Claudia efficiently checked his vitals. My employer didn't mention you were former security. Interesting omission. Warren studied her. Former special forces? Your posture gives you away. A flicker of surprise crossed her face. 3 tours in Afghanistan. Private sector now. Monitoring a dying man seems beneath your qualifications. I go where the money is. Claudia leaned closer, ostensibly adjusting his pillow. Your wife is paying me $5,000 a week to report your condition and ensure no unauthorized visitors. The question is, what are you willing to pay for different information? Warren smiled weakly. What makes you think I have anything to offer? The cryptocurrency you mentioned. The way your friend disappeared with the laptop when I entered. The fact that your neurological symptoms follow no consistent medical pattern. Claudia's eyes were sharp. I'm not here to judge, but I don't like being used as a pawn in someone else's game. Warren made a decision. Check the bottom drawer of that cabinet. Behind the extra blankets. Claudia found the envelope, opening it to discover photographs of Joe adding powder to Warren's food, bank records showing the stolen millions, and transcripts of conversations planning his murder. Jesus Christ, she whispered, expression hardening as she read. They're poisoning you. For nearly a year now, my wife and father are quite thorough. Claudia returned the envelope. What do you want from me? Feed her the information she wants, but on my schedule. Help me control what she knows and when she knows it. And in return, $50,000, plus my testimony ensuring your non-involvement when arrests are made. Claudia considered for only a moment. Deal. But I want something else too. Name it. When this is over, I want 5 minutes alone with your wife. Warren raised an eyebrow. Why? I had a brother. Experimental drug trial for veterans. Your father was on the approval board. Claudia's expression revealed nothing, but her voice held steel. He died in pain, hallucinating. The company called it an acceptable risk percentage. Warren understood immediately. You'll have your 5 minutes, after she's in custody. The next morning, Nurse Beatrice Rodriguez took over Warren's official care, while Claudia became his covert operative, feeding Joe carefully crafted misinformation about his condition and the supposed cryptocurrency fortune. She's getting impatient, Claudia reported 3 days later. Desmond is pushing her to extract the information. They've adjusted your poison dosage, just enough to keep you impaired but conscious. Warren nodded. And the safe information? She found it yesterday. Spent 2 hours in her gallery office making calls afterward. She's scared. The documents you planted showed Desmond setting her up to take the fall. Good. Fear makes people careless. Warren checked his watch. Agent Torres is moving on Dr. Nash today. Once Nash confirms the deliberate poisoning protocol, we'll have enough for warrants. There's something else. Claudia hesitated. Your wife has been speaking with someone named Vincent. They're planning something separate from Desmond. Vincent Graves, the art forger. Warren wasn't surprised. Joe's creating her escape hatch. There's something else. Claudia hesitated. Your wife has been speaking with someone named Vincent. They're planning something separate from Desmond. Vincent Graves, the art forger. Warren wasn't surprised. Joe's creating her escape hatch. The afternoon brought Agent Torres, dressed as a hospital administrator. Nash gave us everything, he reported. Admitted the trial was specifically designed for poison victims, with protocols ensuring they never recovered. 5 previous deaths linked to Desmond's pharmaceutical investments, all wealthy individuals with younger spouses or relatives who received massive payouts. Enough for an arrest? We're processing the warrants now. Torres checked his phone. Surveillance shows your wife making preparations to leave town. Hidden luggage, passport retrieval. Warren nodded. She's found the evidence I planted. Now she knows Desmond planned to betray her. We should move now, Torres urged. Not yet. Warren sat up straighter. I want them both together with irrefutable evidence. No possibility of legal maneuvers or separate trials where they blame each other. That's risky. If either one realizes the trap, they won't. Warren's voice was calm. Everything they've seen confirms what they already believe, that I'm dying, confused, and completely at their mercy. Their arrogance blinds them to any other possibility. That night, Warren gave Claudia specific instructions. The next morning, Joe arrived to find Warren apparently semi-conscious, barely responsive. Warren? She shook him gently, then with increasing force. Warren? His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Joe, is that you? Yes, darling. I'm here. Her voice was soothing, but her eyes calculated. You mentioned something about Bitcoin? About a password? Warren mumbled incoherently, then seemed to focus briefly. Wallet, password, need Desmond. Desmond? Why do you need my father? Trust him. Lawyer, together. Warren's eyes rolled back as he feigned a partial seizure. Joe immediately stepped back, pulling out her phone and dialing. Desmond? You need to come to the hospital now. He's asking for you. Something about his Bitcoin wallet and a will. She listened briefly. No, he's barely conscious. This might be our only chance. After disconnecting, Joe checked Warren's monitors, then retrieved a syringe from her purse, adding its contents to his foreline. Warren allowed the sedative to take partial effect, slipping into apparent unconsciousness while maintaining enough awareness to hear Joe's next call. Vincent, it's happening faster than expected. Be ready with the documents tonight. Yes, all of them. Desmond can't be trusted. I need my insurance policy ready. Warren felt the drugs pulling him under, but not before he heard Joe's final words. Once I have the Bitcoin password, I won't need Desmond anymore. Or his son. Chapter 6. Shifting Alliances. They increased the dosage again, Claudia reported, checking Warren's dilated pupils with clinical efficiency. If you weren't taking the chelating agents Dr. Reeves provided, you'd be comatose by now. Warren blinked against the harsh hospital lighting, allowing his body to process the most recent round of poison Joe had added to his 4. Even with preventative treatment, the cumulative effect was taking its toll. She's getting desperate, he managed, voice raspy. Has Torres finalized the warrants? Signed this morning. They're ready to move on your command. Claudia adjusted his blankets, playing her role for any hidden cameras. Your wife spent 3 hours with Vincent Graves yesterday. Spencer followed them to a safety deposit box at Seattle First National. She's securing her escape funds. Warren closed his eyes briefly, fighting a wave of genuine dizziness. What about Desmond? Called the hospital twice asking about your condition. He's scheduled to visit at 4. Claudia lowered her voice. Warren, you need to consider accelerating the timeline. Your latest blood work shows critical thallium levels despite the treatment. Before Warren could respond, the door opened and Joe entered with Dr. Gregory Nash in tow. Warren immediately shifted to his deteriorating patient persona. Mrs. Blackwood. Nash greeted Claudia with professional courtesy. I need to examine the patient privately. Claudia hesitated, looking at Warren, who gave an imperceptible nod. I'll be right outside, she said, slipping out. Nash checked Warren's vital signs with practiced movements while Joe watched anxiously. The neurological decline is progressing as expected, he announced. Cognitive function severely impaired, organ systems showing stress patterns consistent with late-stage presentation. How much time? Joe asked, not bothering to maintain her grieving wife facade with Nash present. 48 hours, perhaps less. Nash made notes on Warren's chart. Has he revealed anything about the cryptocurrency assets? Nothing coherent. He keeps asking for Desmond. Nash frowned. That's unexpected given their estrangement. Could be confusion or some misplaced filial sentiment. Joe straightened Warren's collar with false tenderness. Desmond will handle it when he arrives. Nash completed his examination, then paused at the door. Mrs. Blackwood, a word in private? They stepped into the hallway, but Warren activated the recording device concealed in his hospital wristband, capturing their hushed conversation. The blood work is concerning, Nash was saying. There are markers indicating he might be receiving some form of treatment countering the poisoning effects. That's impossible, Joe hissed. I've controlled everything. His food, medication, visitors. Nevertheless, his system is showing unexpected resilience. Someone may have discovered our protocol, then accelerated. Tonight, I can't risk. Their voices faded as they moved further down the corridor. Warren used the opportunity to check the secure phone hidden beneath his mattress. 2 messages waited. One from Agent Torres confirming surveillance positions, another from Spencer with a video link. The footage showed Desmond in his lake house study, speaking with Vincent Graves, Joe's supposed ally in her contingency plan. She believes you're helping her establish independence from me, Desmond was saying, amusement evident in his tone. Such predictable desperation. Vincent nodded. She's provided access to all the forged documentation, account numbers, transaction records, everything you requested. Excellent. And she has no idea you've been working for me from the beginning? None. She thinks I'm helping her build a case against you as insurance. Desmond laughed. The best traps are the ones people walk into willingly. Once Warren is dead and the assets secured, we'll implement the final phase. What about Joe? Vincent asked. She's becoming increasingly erratic. An unfortunate overdose of the same substance she's been giving Warren. Poetic justice, wouldn't you say? The video ended. Warren closed his eyes, processing this new information. The web of betrayal extended in all directions, each conspirator planning to eliminate the others. His own father was orchestrating a double murder, Warren by Joe's hand, then Joe by Vincent's, while claiming all the assets for himself. When Claudia returned, Warren briefed her on the new development. We need to adjust our strategy, he concluded. Joe's panicking, planning to accelerate the poisoning tonight. I want you to drop hints that make her think I revealed part of the cryptocurrency information to you. Dangerous play, Claudia observed. She might decide I'm a liability. That's what we want. She'll try to buy your loyalty rather than eliminate you. Accept her offer, become her confidant. And Desmond, let him believe his plan is working. His visit this afternoon is crucial. I need them both here together, explicitly discussing their plans. Claudia checked the hallway, then retrieved a small case from her uniform pocket. Dr. Reeves sent this concentrated chelating agent to protect your organs during the final phase. It won't prevent symptoms, but should prevent permanent damage. Warren accepted the medication. Have Torres position his team for tonight. Once I have their final confession, we move. Later that afternoon, Desmond arrived in an expensive suit that couldn't quite hide the predatory nature beneath. Warren observed him through barely open eyes as he conferred with Joe at the foot of the bed. Nash says he's practically vegetative, Joe reported. Minimal brain function, organ systems failing. Desmond studied Warren with clinical detachment, yet still no information about the cryptocurrency. He asked for you specifically, said something about trusting you with the wallet password. Fascinating. Desmond moved closer, speaking directly to Warren. Can you hear me, son? It's your father. Warren mumbled incoherently, then focused his gaze with apparent effort. Dad, need to tell. Trust you. Yes, Warren. I'm here. Desmond leaned closer. You mentioned Bitcoin? A wallet password. Warren's hand weakly grasped Desmond's sleeve. Hid millions. USB drive in my office. Home safe. Password is mother's birthday. Desmond's expression revealed momentary triumph. We'll take care of everything, Warren. Don't worry. Take care of Joe, promise me. Of course. Desmond patted Warren's hand, eyes already calculating. Joe will want for nothing. When Warren appeared to slip back into unconsciousness, Joe and Desmond moved to the corner of the room, speaking in low voices. We need to search his office tonight, Desmond urged. The Bitcoin wallet could be worth tens of millions. What about Nash's concerns? Someone might be counteracting the poison. Irrelevant at this stage. His condition is terminal. Nash confirmed it. Once we have the cryptocurrency, we accelerate the final phase. Joe's voice lowered further. I've prepared the additional dosage. Tonight, during the nurse change, at 11. Good. I've made arrangements for afterwards. The grieving widow and father-in-law narrative is prepared. And the FBI investigation will focus entirely on Vincent Graves and his art forgery operation. All evidence points to him using your gallery without your knowledge. Desmond's tone was smoothly reassuring. By this time tomorrow, Warren will be gone. We'll have all his assets, and our path forward will be clear. Warren remained motionless, the recording device in his wristband capturing every word. The final pieces were falling into place. That evening, as scheduled, Claudia met secretly with Joe in the hospital parking garage. Mrs. Blackwood, she said with professional deference, I believe your husband revealed something important to me during his brief moment of lucidity this afternoon. Joe's attention sharpened. What did he say? Something about cryptocurrency access requiring 2 keys, one in his possession and one in yours. He seemed to think you already knew about it. Did he mention specifics? Amounts? Storage location? Only that it was life-changing money and that the second key was hidden somewhere you would naturally look after his death. Claudia maintained perfect eye contact, a technique Warren had coached her on. Given his deteriorating condition, I thought you should know immediately. Joe studied her carefully. That's very conscientious of you. Beyond your contracted duties. I recognize opportunities when I see them, Mrs. Blackwood. Understanding passed between them. Such recognition should be rewarded. Would an additional $10,000 compensate for your discretion? 20 would ensure my complete focus on your priorities. Joe nodded slowly. Tonight's nurse change. Make sure Dr. Reeves doesn't interfere with my time alone with my husband. Consider it done. As Claudia walked away, she activated her concealed communication device. Torres? We're on for tonight. 11 p.m. Both targets will be present. Explicit discussion of murder confirmed. Agent Torres's response was immediate. All units in position. Wait for Warren's signal before moving in. The trap was set. Warren closed his eyes, conserving his strength for the final confrontation. By morning, the elaborate glass fortress of deception would lie in shards at the feet of its architects. Chapter 7. The Trap Closes. At 10:47 p.m., the hospital corridor outside Warren's room held an unnatural stillness. Night shift nurses moved with quiet efficiency, unaware of the FBI agents positioned strategically throughout the floor, disguised as orderlies, visitors, and cleaning staff. In the surveillance van parked in the adjacent garage, Agent Torres monitored the operation through multiple screens showing feeds from every angle. Inside the room, Warren lay motionless, maintaining the facade of near-death that had brought his would-be killers to this pivotal moment. Years of security training had taught him to regulate his breathing, to present the precise appearance of terminal decline while maintaining complete situational awareness. Claudia completed her final check of Warren's vital signs, deliberately adjusting the monitoring equipment to allow for the simulation they had planned. They're both coming, she murmured, ostensibly adjusting his pillow. Joe has the final dose prepared. Desmond arrived 10 minutes ago and is waiting in the consulting room until the regular nurse leaves. Warren's eyes flickered open momentarily. Everything in place. Full recording capabilities active. Torres has teams covering all exits. Claudia pressed something small and cold into Warren's palm. Panic button. One press signals the FBI to move in. At precisely 11:02 p.m., the night shift nurse completed her rounds and stepped out. 2 minutes later, Joe entered, followed closely by Desmond. Their movements held a predatory confidence, the assured bearing of those who believed victory was moments away. Nash confirmed the monitors have been adjusted, Joe said, removing a syringe from her handbag. This final dose will trigger cardiac arrest. The autopsy will show natural causes related to his neurological condition. Desmond moved to the window, scanning the parking lot with practiced caution. No unusual activity outside. Did you speak with Vincent about the contingency plans? Yes. He's prepared to move the final art pieces tomorrow. The gallery documentation has been altered to show losses rather than the actual sales. Good. And the information Warren provided about the cryptocurrency? Joe approached Warren's foreline, syringe poised. We'll search his office tonight after this is done. The password is apparently Elizabeth's birthday. Desmond's expression tightened at the mention of Warren's mother. Did he say anything else? Nothing coherent. Just delirious ramblings about betrayal and justice. Joe inserted the needle into the foreport. It's almost poetic, isn't it? Using your knowledge of pharmaceuticals to eliminate your son, just like you did with his mother. Warren fought to maintain his passive expression as this explicit confirmation of his mother's murder was finally spoken aloud. Desmond showed no reaction to the accusation. Elizabeth became problematic. She discovered my relationship with my assistant and threatened a very public, very expensive divorce. He shrugged. Some problems require permanent solutions. Like your son. Joe's finger remained on the syringe plunger, not yet depressing it. Warren inherited his mother's unfortunate self-righteousness. Too concerned with ethics and legalities to recognize the opportunities before him. Desmond moved closer to the bed, studying Warren's seemingly unconscious form. A disappointment to the end. And me? Joe asked, her voice carefully neutral. Am I a disappointment too? Desmond smiled thinly. You've been a valuable partner, Josephine. Far more adaptable than Warren ever was. Yet you arranged with Vincent to eliminate me after Warren's death. Joe's tone remained conversational, but her eyes had hardened. Rather ungrateful, considering everything I've done. A flicker of surprise crossed Desmond's face before his composure returned. Vincent's loyalty was always questionable. Whatever he told you, save it. Joe released the foreline without injecting the contents. I recorded your conversation at the lake house. Your entire plan to frame me for Warren's murder, then arrange my suicide once the assets were secured. Desmond's expression shifted to cold calculation. A misunderstanding, clearly. Vincent misrepresented my intentions. Like you misrepresented yours to me from the beginning? Joe laughed bitterly. I actually believed you loved me, that we would build something together after Warren was gone. We still can, Desmond offered smoothly. This is a minor complication. The fundamental plan remains sound. Warren dies, we secure the assets, disappear to the property in Belize. Joe held up the syringe. I'm not administering this until I have guarantees. Written documentation placing all responsibility with Vincent, offshore accounts in my name only, and a new exit strategy that doesn't involve my convenient death. Reasonable precautions. Desmond conceded, his adaptation instantaneous. We'll draw up new agreements tonight. Before anything happens to Warren, Joe insisted. Of course, though we should still proceed with securing the cryptocurrency information immediately. Time is a factor. Desmond approached Warren again, this time roughly shaking his shoulder. Warren? Can you hear me, son? Warren maintained his lifeless appearance, but his mind raced. Their explicit confessions had been recorded, including Desmond's admission about his mother's murder. The trap had worked perfectly. He's completely unresponsive, Desmond announced. We should proceed with. Warren chose that moment to open his eyes, focusing clearly on his father's face. Hello, Desmond, he said distinctly, all pretense of illness gone from his voice. Surprised to see me conscious? Desmond recoiled, shock momentarily overriding his practiced control. What? Do you know what the key difference is between us? Warren continued, slowly sitting up. I learned to anticipate betrayal in my security career. You merely became comfortable committing it. Joe backed toward the door, the syringe still clutched in her hand. Warren, you don't understand. Understand perfectly, Joe. Warren's voice remained calm as he pressed the panic button concealed in his palm. I understand that you've been poisoning me for months on Desmond's instructions. I understand that you both planned to kill me today and steal everything I've worked for. Desmond recovered quickly, his facade of paternal concern instantly replaced by cold pragmatism. You're delirious, Warren. The medications are no longer controlling me, Warren finished. Dr. Reeves identified the thallium poisoning weeks ago. Everything since then has been carefully orchestrated. Your cryptocurrency bait, your confessions, your mutual betrayals. All recorded and transmitted directly to the FBI. The hospital room door opened, revealing Agent Torres with his badge displayed and weapon drawn. Behind him stood Dr. Reeves and two more agents. Desmond Blackwood, Josephine Blackwood, Torres announced formally, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, and corporate espionage. Desmond's eyes darted around the room, seeking an escape that didn't exist. This is absurd. My son is clearly delusional. Save it for your attorney, Torres interrupted, nodding to his agents to proceed with the arrests. We have comprehensive evidence, including your explicit confession to the murder of Elizabeth Blackwood 25 years ago. Joe lunged suddenly toward Warren, the syringe raised like a weapon. You manipulative bastard. Claudia materialized from the connecting bathroom, intercepting Joe. In one fluid motion, she disarmed Joe and pinned her against the wall, the syringe clattering harmlessly to the floor. I promised you 5 minutes alone with her, Warren told Claudia as Joe struggled futilely against the trained operative's grip. But that will have to wait until she's in custody. As the agents handcuffed Desmond, his composed veneer finally cracked. You have no idea who you're dealing with, he spat at Warren. My connections are already being investigated, Warren finished. Your pharmaceutical trial victims, your judicial bribes, your offshore accounts, everything. The glass fortress you built is shattered, and there's nowhere left to hide. Torres led Desmond from the room, while Joe continued to struggle against the second agent's restraints. We had everything, she shouted at Warren. We could have enriched beyond imagination. Instead, you choose this righteous vendetta. Warren studied the woman he had once loved with detached curiosity. You poisoned me for money, Joe. Destroyed our marriage. Betrayed every trust. Aligned yourself with a man who murdered his own wife. What exactly did you think would happen when you declared war on a security expert? Joe's defiance collapsed into calculation. I know things, Warren. About Desmond's other operations. About people who would pay for Nexus information. I can make a deal. Save your negotiations, Warren advised as Torres returned to escort her out. You'll need whatever leverage you have left. After they were gone, Warren stood from the hospital bed, his legs unsteady not from pretense, but from the genuine effects of months of poisoning. Dr. Reeves moved quickly to support him. You should still be resting, she admonished. The chelation therapy isn't complete. I've rested enough. Warren glanced at the room that had served as both his prison and his strategic command center. It's time to rebuild. Spencer appeared in the doorway, relief evident on his face. We got everything, Warren. Every confession, every plan, all transmitted in real time to the FBI servers. And Vincent Graves, arrested at the gallery 30 minutes ago, along with 2 associates. International buyers are next. Warren nodded, a weight lifting from his shoulders. Contact Ronnie. Tell her to proceed with the financial recovery protocols we established. As they helped him from the room, Warren paused at the threshold, looking back at the hospital bed where he had feigned dying while meticulously orchestrating justice. The symmetry wasn't lost on him. His father and wife had built an elaborate deception to destroy him, only to be demolished by a more carefully constructed counter-deception. The glass fortress of lies had indeed shattered. Now came the harder part, rebuilding a life from the fragments of betrayal. Chapter 8. justice, and vengeance. The polished conference table in Lydia Stern's law office reflected the Seattle skyline in miniature, towers of glass and steel captured in its surface like a parallel city. Warren sat at its head, physically recovered but forever changed by the months of poisoning and betrayal. Across from him, Agent Torres arranged evidence folders in precise order. "The prosecution has everything they need," Torres confirmed, sliding a document toward Warren. "Your testimony is crucial, but not the only pillar of their case." Warren scanned the summary. "DNA analysis confirmed the thallium in my home match samples from Desmond's lake house. Exact chemical signature. Plus, Nash provided detailed records of the pharmaceutical trial protocols, explicitly designed to mask poisoning symptoms as neurological disease." Torres tapped another folder. "5 previous victims identified, all with striking similarities to your case. Wealthy spouses poisoned, assets redirected afterward," Warren murmured. "My father's business model." Lydia Stern entered, immaculately dressed as always, her silver hair framing a face that had stared down corporate titans for 4 decades. "They've arrived. Separately, as expected." Warren straightened. "Are they aware they're meeting each other?" "No. Each believes this is an individual consultation regarding plea arrangements." Lydia's smile held no warmth. "Your choreography, as usual, is impeccable." Minutes later, the conference room door opened to admit Joe, escorted by a U.S. Marshal. Her outfit couldn't disguise the strain of 3 weeks in federal custody. Her eyes widened at the sight of Warren, fully recovered and calmly watching her entrance. "What is this?" she demanded, turning to her attorney, a nervous young man from a firm known for handling difficult cases. Before anyone could respond, Desmond was escorted in through a separate door. His imperious bearing had diminished, but the calculating eyes remained unchanged as they met Warren's across the table. "A family reunion," Desmond observed with forced casualness. "How touching." Joe visibly recoiled at his presence. "I was promised a separate negotiation." "Change of plans," Warren said mildly. "I thought it more efficient to address you both together, given your history of collaboration." Desmond's attorney, a silver-haired man with an expensive suit and perpetual frown, leaned forward. "My client is here under the impression that information he possesses might be valuable to ongoing investigations. If this is some form of emotional confrontation—" "Your client is here," Torres interrupted, "because the prosecution has authorized me to present one opportunity for cooperation before the final charges are filed this afternoon." Warren watched Joe and Desmond exchange glances, once conspirators, now adversaries assessing which would betray the other first. "What my client knows about the art forgery operation could implicate numerous international buyers," Joe's attorney ventured. "Valuable intelligence for ongoing national security investigations." Desmond's laugh held genuine amusement. Josephine was a minor player, manipulated specifically for her access to Warren. "Her knowledge is superficial at best. I have documentation of every transaction," Joe countered, color rising in her cheeks, "including your instructions regarding Warren's mother's elimination." "Unfortunate desperation," Desmond said to Torres. "Creating false evidence to leverage a deal is predictable but ultimately futile." Warren slid a USB drive across the table. "Why don't we review what evidence actually exists?" A screen descended from the ceiling. Warren activated a presentation showing a comprehensive timeline: financial transactions, surveillance footage, recorded conversations, medical reports, all meticulously organized into an unbreakable chain of evidence. "Your mutual betrayal was anticipated," Warren explained dispassionately. "Every conversation at the lake house, private meeting, contingency plan you created against each other, all captured and preserved." He pointed to specific dates on the timeline. "Here, Desmond, you instructed Vincent to prepare for Joe's elimination after my death. And here, Joe, you arranged with your gallery assistant to liquidate assets Desmond thought were secure." Warren turned to Torres. "The prosecution doesn't need deals from either of them. The evidence is comprehensive, the pattern established across multiple victims. Joe's composure fractured. This is absurd. I was manipulated. Desmond controlled everything. Interesting perspective, Warren replied, advancing the presentation to footage of Joe meticulously measuring poison into his food, her expression one of focused determination. You seem quite autonomous here. Desmond maintained his calculating stillness. What exactly is your purpose with this theatrical display, Warren? Revenge? Some misguided sense of justice for your mother? Justice, yes. For mother. For Desmond's other victims. For myself. Warren leaned forward. But primarily, it's about consequences. You both built careers exploiting others' trust. Now you'll experience the natural conclusion of your choices. Warren stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Agent Torres will escort you back to federal custody. Your respective attorneys can explain the sentencing guidelines for attempted murder, conspiracy, and financial crimes. I believe the combined charges carry potential sentences exceeding 60 years. As Warren moved toward the door, Joe called out, "Wait. The information about the overseas accounts, the ones Desmond keeps in Zurich, that has to be worth something." Desmond's control finally slipped. "You vindictive little." The accounts under Mary Ann's maiden name, Joe continued desperately. The ones with the proceeds from the pharmaceutical victims. Warren paused at the threshold. Agent Torres has full details on those accounts already. Mary Ann provided access weeks ago. As the realization of complete defeat settled over them, Warren addressed them one final time. "You both question my capabilities because I chose ethics over expedience. You saw integrity as weakness. That fundamental miscalculation has cost you everything." Outside in the hallway, Dr. Reeves waited with Ronnie Palmer, both women watching Warren with careful assessment. "How do you feel?" Liza asked, her medical concern evident. "Lighter," Warren admitted, though the confrontation was less satisfying than anticipated. Ronnie nodded, understanding. Justice rarely provides the emotional resolution we expect. "Next steps?" Liza asked as they walked toward the elevator. "Testimonies, trials, rebuilding." Warren pressed the down button, starting with selling the Seattle house. "I can't live surrounded by those memories." "I've identified a suitable apartment overlooking the Sound," Ronnie offered. "Excellent security infrastructure, privacy, views that might provide some peace." "Thank you." Warren's phone buzzed with a message from Spencer, Vincent talking. "Implicated 3 more executives at Nexus. Network bigger than we thought." The elevator doors opened to reveal Spencer waiting in the lobby, his expression confirming the message's seriousness. "How extensive?" Warren asked without preamble. "Industrial espionage operation dating back 5 years. Desmond was middleman, not architect." Spencer lowered his voice. "Warren, there are government connections. This goes beyond corporate security." Warren absorbed this, the security professional in him already mapping implications and contingencies. "Torres needs to know immediately." "Already contacted him. He's expanding the investigation task force." As they exited the building, Warren noticed Claudia waiting discreetly near a black SUV. She approached. "Torres kept his word," she reported. 5 minutes with Josephine, as promised. "Did you get what you needed?" Warren asked. A ghost of satisfaction crossed Claudia's face. She admitted her role in the pharmaceutical trials that killed my brother. Recorded and provided to the prosecution. Warren nodded. "Good. Join us for the next phase." "What exactly is the next phase?" Warren looked at the small group assembled. Spencer, Ronnie, Liza, Claudia, individuals who had helped dismantle the conspiracy against him, each with unique skills and uncompromising integrity. Originally, personal recovery. Warren's expression hardened with new purpose. Now, dismantling the entire network that enabled Desmond's operation, starting with the compromised elements at Nexus. Understanding passed between them. This was no longer about personal vengeance, but something larger. The security expert, the forensic accountant, the medical specialist, the covert operative, and the internal investigator. An unlikely team united by their commitment to exposing corruption. As they departed, Warren glanced back at the towering glass building where his would-be murderers now faced the consequences of their actions. The metaphorical glass fortress hadn't merely shattered. It had transformed into something new, a foundation for justice that extended far beyond his personal vindication. The trap had closed, but the true work was just beginning. Chapter 9. Rebuilding. 6 months later, Warren stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his Puget Sound apartment, watching ferries traverse the slate-gray water below. The space bore no resemblance to his former home. Minimalist, secure, and devoid of the elaborate deceptions that had surrounded him for years. Behind him, Ronnie analyzed data on 3 monitors, her focus absolute as she tracked financial patterns through shell companies and offshore accounts. Their professional collaboration had evolved gradually, the shared intensity of purpose creating an unexpected connection that neither rushed to define. The Jakarta transfers matched the pattern, she announced, marking another node on the digital map displaying Desmond's extended network. Same routing, same timing, same percentage splits. Warren turned from the window. That confirms the Indonesian connection. Forward it to Torres. Already done. Ronnie stretched, rubbing her neck. That makes 17 confirmed co-conspirators across 3 continents. And 12 victims besides me, Warren added, the weight of that knowledge still fresh. Each with the same profile, wealthy, influential, targeted through someone they trusted. The apartment door opened as Spencer arrived with Claudia, both carrying case files from the ongoing investigation. Nash's testimony finished today, Spencer reported, placing the files on Warren's desk. Provided detailed documentation on 9 additional pharmaceutical trials with suspicious outcomes. Warren nodded. Cooperation won't save him, but it expands our understanding of the network. And our credibility with the prosecution, Claudia added, now channeled into their investigative work. The U.S. Attorney specifically requested our presence at tomorrow's hearing. Warren checked his watch. We should leave for the courthouse soon. Joe's sentencing is at 2. The trial had progressed exactly as Warren anticipated. Joe's attempts to blame Desmond undermined by overwhelming evidence of her independent actions. The jury had deliberated less than 6 hours before returning guilty verdicts on all counts. At the federal courthouse, Warren sat calmly as Joe received her sentence. 25 years for attempted murder, with additional consecutive terms for fraud, conspiracy, and corporate espionage. Her once immaculate appearance had diminished during 3 months of trial, but her eyes still held the calculating assessment that had served her in the art world. As guards led her away, Joe paused briefly, looking directly at Warren. No words were exchanged, but her expression conveyed a complex mixture of hatred and reluctant respect for the adversary who had so completely outmaneuvered her. Outside, reporters clustered around Warren, shouting questions about the case that had captivated Seattle's upper echelons. Mr. Blackwood, how does it feel knowing your wife will spend decades in prison? Any comment on your father's upcoming trial? Is it true you've established a foundation for victims of similar crimes? Warren navigated through them with practiced ease, offering only a brief statement. Today's sentence reflects the severity of the crimes committed. Justice has been served. I'm focusing now on helping other victims rebuild their lives. Later that afternoon, Warren visited the small offices of the Blackwood Foundation, where Nurse Beatrice Rodriguez coordinated with medical professionals implementing new poisoning detection protocols in hospitals nationwide. 3 more institutions adopted the screening program this week, be reported, and 2 potential cases identified in Chicago using our markers. Get Dr. Reeves involved immediately, Warren instructed. If they match our profile, offer full resources and security assessment. Already arranged. Liza's flying out tomorrow morning. Be hesitated. Warren, the victim's spouse, fits the pattern exactly. Younger second wife, previous suspicious death in the family. Local police are reluctant to investigate without more evidence. Then we'll provide it. Activate Kwan's team for surveillance. Have Spencer coordinate with any cooperative officers and put Ronnie on the financial tracking. Warren's voice softened. No one else lives through what we did. Not if we can prevent it. That evening, Warren drove to the suburban neighborhood where Marianne Blackwood still lived in the Tudor home she'd claimed in her divorce settlement. Since the arrests, their relationship had evolved from distant politeness to genuine alliance. The prosecution called again, Marianne reported, serving tea in her sunroom. They want additional testimony about Desmond's behavior during your mother's illness. Are you comfortable providing it? After 20 years of silence, it feels necessary. Marianne's eyes held the same steely determination Warren recognized in himself. Elizabeth deserves justice, however delayed. The evidence from his other victims strengthens the historical case significantly, Warren noted. Torres believes they can secure a conviction for her murder as well. Good. Marianne passed him a folder. These are the names I mentioned, other women who contacted me after the arrests. Each one has stories about Desmond similar to mine, spanning 40 years. Warren examined the list. I'll have Claudia reach out, add their experiences to our documentation. Some are reluctant to come forward publicly. The shame, even after all this time. They won't have to. Their patterns help establish context, even without direct testimony. As Warren prepared to leave, Marianne touched his arm. Elizabeth would be proud of you, Warren, not just for bringing Desmond to justice, but for helping others afterward. I wish I'd recognized what happened to her sooner. You were a teenager. He controlled everything. The narrative, the investigation, the aftermath. Marianne's expression softened. Don't carry guilt that belongs solely to him. Warren nodded, accepting her wisdom, if not entirely her absolution. On his drive back, Warren received a call from Vincent Graves, whose cooperation had secured a reduced sentence in exchange for detailed testimony about the art forgery operation. They've identified another gallery using my authentication techniques, Vincent reported. Same connection to military contractors, same data embedding methods. Forward the details to Spencer. We'll investigate the connection to Nexus leaks. Already did. But Warren, this operation predates my involvement with Joe. Someone else trained them in my methods. Warren processed the implications, suggesting a larger organization with standardized protocols. Exactly. This isn't isolated incidents. It's systematic. After disconnecting, Warren contacted Torres to share this development. Their partnership had evolved from investigator and witness to collaborative network, dismantling a sophisticated criminal enterprise. Fits our emerging profile, Torres confirmed. We're seeing similar patterns in Boston and San Francisco. Art galleries as fronts for corporate espionage and money laundering. Connected to Desmond? Not directly, but same methodologies. Your father may have been important, but he wasn't the architect. Warren felt the familiar focus of security work sharpening his thoughts. Send me everything you have. My team will analyze for patterns you might have missed. Later that night, Warren sat alone on his apartment balcony, watching lights reflect on Puget Sound, broken fragments of illumination dancing on the water surface. The metaphor wasn't lost on him, beauty emerging from shattered pieces. His phone buzzed with a message from Ronnie. Analysis complete. Found connection between all galleries. Call me when you're ready. Warren smiled slightly. Ready. An interesting concept after months of poisoning, betrayal, and systematic justice. Was anyone truly ready to confront the depths of human deception? Perhaps not, but they could be prepared, vigilant, and determined to create consequences for those who violated trust. His new purpose had emerged organically from his personal ordeal, using his security expertise to protect others from similar predators. The Blackwood Foundation was already helping 3 families navigate situations disturbingly similar to his own, while his consulting firm with Spencer specialized in detecting complex fraud schemes. Tomorrow would bring Desmond's trial, more victims to assist, and continued unraveling of the network that had enabled his father's decades of crimes. The work was nowhere near complete, but Warren found unexpected satisfaction in the clarity of purpose that had emerged from betrayal. He dialed Ronnie's number, ready to discover where their investigation would lead next. As they discussed the new connections, Warren watched a ferry crossing the Sound, its lights creating a path through the darkness. From his perspective, The illuminated wake resembled broken glass being transformed into something purposeful, a metaphor for his own journey from victim to advocate. The glass fortress had indeed shattered, but from its fragments, Warren Blackwood had built something far stronger, a foundation of justice that would help others find their way through betrayal toward rebuilding. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.